Hello and welcome back to Hear God Speak. My name is Sydney Freiberg. This is my mom, Barb Rice, and we are so excited to be back. This is conflict resolution with your 10 to 18-year-olds. So we were laughing before because I'm like, this is like for all the moms out there that need a little revive. Like,
Right.
throw me a rope, help me out.
The med pack.
Yes, like revive me. I am down on the field.
Right.
So I'm so excited to talk about this because I think, we talked about this earlier of the 10 to 18,
Mm-hmm.
that is such a crucial age. I mean, it's 8 years, but those are those 4 years split in two. I feel like the first, 10 to 14, and then you have 14 to 18. So like all very different, even in the little bit of time there. So talk to us about how do we maintain that relationship? How do we thrive and not just survive? Because we want to have a relationship with our kids when they're 18, right?
Right.
But when they're 10, we're still not besties.
No. No.
Which that's the thing.
Do you remember when you were 10? That's when we moved to Georgia.
I know. That was a very interesting time in my life. So how do we do this? 10 to 18. What are we looking for? What are we working on as the parent? Because again, you're the parent. So we need to act our age.
Right.
And your children are younger than you.
Right.
So we don't need to act like them.
Right. And that's hard. That's challenging. But I would say this, that there's two main things I want to talk about today. The first one is consistency, and then the second one is time.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I had to boil it down to two things, is consistency and time. Now, we talked last time about the importance of establishing the authority.
Yes.
Okay, because that is the battlefield when they are young.
Yeah, the power struggle.
Yes.
Daily.
The power struggle.
Moment by moment.
Right. And here's the thing. If you do that well from 0 to 10, and you establish the fact that you are in charge, that there's an element of the importance of obedience and respect, okay, that they understand that you are an ambassador from God, that you are the person who is taking care of them, but you're also the one who will minister consequences, good consequences or discipline consequences, depending on their behavior. Yeah. It's important that they understand the authority, who is in charge. Okay. And that's for all of life.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the world will do it when they're adults. It's like you're not going to keep the job if you're not doing the job. You will be fired.
Right.
So it's
there will be consequences. And so they need to understand that early.
In a safe environment.
Yes.
Totally.
So that's important to establish that when they're young. So when they're around 10-ish is when hopefully that's been established. Right. So then you can move from authority to influence. And I think that's where a lot of us parents can make the mistake. Because we're used to being in charge.
Right. Yeah.
And then as these kids grow bigger.
Yes.
And sometimes even bigger than us. In those preteen
they have
years,
questions.
They have
and
opinions, and they have a way that they want to go.
Yes.
And so, if you come too hard down on the authority piece, it's really going to fracture the relationship. Yeah. And so that's why,
right? Because you hit 18 and you're like, I'm out. I can't hear anything you have to say.
Right. Yeah. Right. And we don't want that because we want to be able to influence our kids even through adulthood.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So I think that kind of ties into, our first point of consistency. And so, again, this is one of those points that I am going to say this till the day I die.
Taking it to the grave.
The number one point for this section of what we're talking about is consistency. And what I mean by that is consistency in the word for both us as parents and also with your kids.
Yes.
Okay. And so some of you, I know you're going to bucket me and you're going to be like, well, I don't want to make my kids read their Bibles.
Like, they're going to hate it.
They're going to hate
they don't want to.
Their Bible. They're going to hate God.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you, no, that is not true. Okay.
Right.
you know, it's so funny because I think it's interesting that, like, you make your kids do school. Well, some of you might not. I mean, you know, maybe you don't care about their education. But I think for most of us parents, we do.
Yeah.
So you make your kids do school. Probably the easiest one is you make your kids brush your teeth. Why do you do that?
Right.
Like, you know, we talk about that all the time. Like, why do we make our kids brush our teeth?
Right. It's going to get gross and your teeth will fall out.
Well, exactly. Because there's an element of digression that happens.
Yes.
So when you don't brush your teeth, then your breath smells bad. And then all of a sudden decay happens.
Right.
And when decay happens, your teeth start to rot. And when your teeth rot, they fall out. And then if your teeth fall out,
painful.
It's a very painful process. And it all comes back to us as parents. It is our job to do the job. Right. There are certain things that you absolutely need to help your kids set up good habits. And one of them is renewing their minds. And I know that it's hard as parents because maybe it's because you haven't developed that habit. Yeah. Of renewing your mind. And it's really not that hard, you guys. Okay? And I'm going to give you a simple equation. 3 to 5 verses. Yeah. Write them out every day. Just pick a book of the Bible. It doesn't matter. Any book of the Bible. Yes. Okay? You guys can all do it together. Right. You know, and that's what we've done for...
I remember we did that forever. I mean 15, it's like, it was like part of homeschooling. It's like we start our day, you know.
It's just part of life. Even after, because you guys, you still get the text.
No, I know.
So...
It's great.
In the family group text.
We write it out. I love it.
But we write it out. And the reason we do that is because we don't want our kids to just grow in education at school. We want them to grow in relationship with God. Right. We want them to grow in wisdom and stature. Okay. And it's interesting because there's actually a verse.
Well, while you're looking for that, I laugh because I look at Kingston and I'm like, I cannot wait for you to read your Bible by yourself. You need Jesus. Right. And I am not Jesus.
Well, why is that though? Well, here's the thing that's so interesting that when you say that, what's interesting is, you know, what you're really saying behind all that is the fact that you want him to know how to renew his own mind.
Yes, because I'm like, right now, obviously he's 1, so he can't do any of that. He's saying very, you know, first letters of words, which is so funny.
So cute.
He's not really speaking or anything, but I'm like, I try and be intentional about, you know, holding us accountable to like a verse of that day and be like, okay, we're going to work on patience or whatever, like joy or whatever. But it's still hard because I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to keep both of us accountable right now. You know, like he's not, you know, at that mental state where he can do that yet. But I'm like, I'm excited for that because I've seen the fruit of that too. Because when all of us siblings were able to read our own Bibles, then we were able to all resolve conflict with each other. Right. And I'm like, that must have felt amazing.
That was amazing.
That you're like, wow, I don't have to like, I mean, you're still involved, but like.
Yes. But the first
every conversation.
Is regardless of your age, whether they were younger or the older, I would say, hey, when you guys would come to me and say, this person did this, I'd say, hey, did you talk it out, work it out?
Totally.
And then you guys would be like,
why?
And
you're
so,
easier.
Yes.
But
it's easier if you just bring the hammer. Yeah.
But that's like the joy that we can all look forward to of when your children are in the Word and when the Lord is working on them individually, the harvest that comes from that. Right. I mean, you can't buy that, you know?
Well, the perception is when your kids are little, you think that you're actually controlling them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, it's only because you're bigger.
Right.
But one day they're going to grow. Oh, yeah. Okay. And that's why you need to teach them to renew their minds because I can't change anybody.
Right.
Okay.
No.
But you know who can?
Yeah.
God can change them.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't I set up the consistency of me being in the Word? They get to see a mom or a dad that's transformed and walking in truth and love and kindness. Why wouldn't I want to transfer that to my kids?
Right.
And let them walk in the newness of joy and peace and love and kindness that God has for them because they know their Heavenly Father.
Right.
Okay. And so that's why I'm trying to urge you guys to be consistent in the Word personally, but also consistently making your kids be in the Word.
Right.
And then having those conversations throughout the day. Because it really is sweet. It's interesting in Proverbs 10:1, it says, a wise son makes a father glad, but a foolish, stubborn son who refuses to learn is a grief to his mother.
Yeah.
And that is why we want to be consistent, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to raise any fools.
That's so exhausting.
They're already
so exhausting.
Naturally foolish.
Oh, yes.
And so,
yeah, we need a reminder. Your children is born a sinner.
Yes, our job is to help them.
They're born foolish.
Not grow up and continue in that foolishness.
No, and I think all the time, like we've talked about this before, I'm like, why would you make your life harder? You're literally going to be with this person for the next 18 plus some years, maybe more in there.
Right.
In the same home, under the same roof. You might as well have an enjoyable relationship with them because you're willing to be consistent. You know what I mean? And I get it. I'm exhausted. I don't want to keep telling Kingston every single day, we can't touch the dog bowl. You know, like that's his thing. And I can't, like, there's sometimes where I'm like, I just don't want to go over there and correct him. But I'm like, you know what? It's either I do it now or I am going to pay for it later when he's not listening about something serious.
Right. Exactly.
And there's that foolishness of I can train him in the little stuff and then hopefully, you know, the Lord will transfer and continue to grow him in that wisdom and learning and knowledge of if she says not to touch it, I need to just not touch it, you know? So I love that. Okay. So the second thing, this is so sweet.
Second one is probably one of my favorite things ever.
This is like your cheat code. I feel like this is Barb Rice's cheat code.
This really is, because
I love it.
I remember when you guys were young, you were probably eight years old when we took this parenting class again.
Love it.
So
there's so much gold in it, though.
So much gold in listening to people that have gone before you.
Yes.
And, you know, that you're looking at their kids and going,
right,
man, you got some stellar.
Well, you always, you always look at the people who their adult children have a good relationship with them.
Right.
And you be like, not that, you know, your kids are all put together and your family picture looks great. It's like, you actually talk to your adult children regularly and they come see you and like, then it's like, what did you do?
Exactly.
Because they still like you.
Exactly. Yes.
You're not perfect, but you did something.
Exactly. Well, you did something, but then, you know, the bigger thing is that God did it.
Yes.
And that's why we want to be available.
Right.
For God to move. So the second point that I talked about was time, but the time is at night. And I know this is a kicker for most of us.
Yes.
Because we're tired.
Yeah. And when you have a lot of kids, it's like you have younger ones that get up early. Your older ones want to stay up later, though.
Right. So there's a long season. I'm still in it.
23 years in, you're still there.
Still in it, where I'm not going to go to bed at 9:30.
Right.
It's just not in the cards for me.
Right.
One day, when I'm maybe in my 80s or 90s.
Probably not. The grandkids.
I don't know. I just don't even know. I'm not looking forward to it.
I know.
But, I mean, it's one of those things that you just have to make yourself available. And this is where it's really hard. Because I know a lot of the moms are working.
Yeah, it's hard.
And, you know, and you're exhausted. But here's the thing, you guys. It might not be every night, but I would say most nights, make the time.
Yeah, and that's just going in and sitting on their bed and, like, having a question that you just, like, I know some people have really cute questions that they're like, what made you so excited today? Or like, tell me two things, like when they're younger. So, but now thinking 10 to 18, what are kind of the things that you would ask? Because I know sometimes kids' to their heart is what we like to call it. They're not always open.
Right.
You know, like.
Right. Sometimes you don't need to ask anything.
You just
sit
there?
You don't want to ask. Let me just tell you what you don't want to do.
Tell us.
Don't say, so how was your day?
Yeah.
How was school?
Ew. Every night.
Day. Yeah. Don't say the
same
Don't make
them relive the whole day.
Yes. Well, not just even reliving the whole day. It's not even that. It's just that it feels insincere.
Right. You don't have a new question or like just.
Like it just feels insincere.
Yeah. I remember so in our family, we were just crazy. All the girls shared a room till forever, till you move out. And then all the boys shared a room.
Right.
So I feel like that was cool too because there were 2 bunk beds in the girls' room because there were 4 of us. Mm-hmm. And, we're already talking. Mm-hmm. So you would just come in.
I just come in and
just
hang
join.
Out. Right.
And it was just like, whatever.
Right. And sometimes that's what you need to do. So if you feel like there's a fracture in the relationship with you and your teenager, sometimes it's just a matter of just coming in and just say hi.
Yeah.
And just shut up. And then just sit there. I mean, the biggest thing for me, and I know it's going to be exhausting for you guys, is just to listen.
Yeah.
Because, man, they got a lot of words at night. Yeah. They have a lot of words at night. Some of my kids have so many words that I literally the other night was like, doot, doot, doot. And they were like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm shutting you down. We've been here for a long time. And I need to turn, we need to shut this down. Okay. Right. But that's only because we can joke around.
Yeah. There's the trust there.
Right. Yes. Right. But I would say that the first thing is to listen. Love it. Because there's wisdom in so much of this. And I love this verse because this is something that I feel like as parents that we need. And in James 3:13, God was reminding me this morning, it says, if you are wise and understanding God's ways, prove it by living an honorable life, doing good works with the humility that comes from wisdom. And, when I was praying and reading about this morning, some gold that God was dropping is the fact that there's a couple things that are evident in a life of a parent that is wise.
Yeah.
Okay. That has teenagers, not only because you have age, but because you've been with Jesus. Mm-hmm. And the wisdom is, true wisdom is knowing the truth and living the truth. Mm-hmm. So it's not enough for just, we don't want to be just know-it-alls.
Right.
Okay. Nobody likes a know-it-all.
Right.
Okay.
It's exhausting.
So you have to have a level of humility to live it out. And so again, how does this come? It comes when you listen well so that you have good conversations.
Right.
So when you're listening, then you're able to actually have genuine questions that are not condemning.
Right.
Okay.
It's just
that's
curious.
Not the time. Yeah. Just curious. Like getting to know them. I mean,
they'll tell you about your friends, what their friends are doing.
Exactly. It's just
they'll tell you everything.
Time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's just time. And the time they want to talk is at night.
Yeah.
Okay. So even if you want to start it earlier, I feel like ours is always at 10 or 11 at night and goes on for an hour or two. But if you want to start it earlier, then start it earlier.
Yeah.
Bust in there at 8:30 or 9.
Right.
Okay. And then sit down and talk about it. Like I literally probably need to make a mental note for myself to do that because I just.
Well, how did you and Dad do it? Is this mainly would you switch each night or just how?
Well, again, because your dad gets up at usually 5 o'clock in the morning.
He's a lot more busy.
His
connecting time is different.
His connecting time is going to look different. His connecting time is more one-on-one time when he would take you guys out.
Right.
Or even in the mornings, he would try to connect with you guys. Whereas my time was at night.
Yeah.
And that was such a huge deposit.
So did you do girls and boys?
No. I would try to do
switch every other.
Switch. Yeah, I would try to switch.
Yeah.
Okay, because there was a season where
there
was
was
4
8
boys
of us
and 4 girls.
And I was going to say, you weren't in our room every night. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, this woman.
I know.
What does she want?
What is she? Yes. Yes.
You know, like,
Right,
but you're,
right.
again, you're older.
Mhm.
So asking the Lord to give you discernment of
Mhm.
being aware of just the demeanor of your children when they come
Mhm.
home from school, or just
Mhm.
like, just being aware of your kids of like, you know
Yeah.
what, the boys look a little beat up today. Like, maybe I'll
Well, the
just,
biggest thing is when somebody was angry.
yes.
Like, I mean, that's
it's
obviously
pretty obvious, right?
a
It's
sign that there's
burning,
something wrong.
right?
So we need to press in.
Yes.
So you can always tell when someone's angry. That's when
Right.
we know we need to press in.
Yes. And you can tell who needs what, whether it's one of the girls, one of the boys, you know, if you need to have one-on-one conversation, make sure
Right.
they're, you know, just hear them out. But okay, so we know the consistency in the word
Right.
as the parent,
Mhm.
and encouraging your children, tasking them with, and you, okay, so practical, let's just talk about this really quick.
Yeah.
You would send out a text
Right.
when we were all older and had phones. So
Mhm.
before that, what did you do?
Mhm. So before that, I would have the verse either
I think
written
we'd all come
on
ask you.
Right. You would just come ask me and I would tell you where you need to write.
Yeah.
So I would just give you all little journals. And even if the kids
Yeah, it
were
was
little,
fun.
so like if we were at breakfast,
Right.
I would have you guys just, even the littles would write like
They like
color.
draw a picture
Yeah, they draw pictures
of
or
what
color.
they were listening to. You'd like
Mhm.
read it to them.
Right. Exactly.
I remember that. Yeah.
Exactly. So when your kids are little, you can do
Yeah.
that. But, for the bigger kids, that the consistency of just being in the word, but then also the time at night
Right.
is so huge because you want to be able to influence them.
Yes.
So your kids are going to talk to somebody at night.
Yeah.
I guarantee you. I mean, that's how I was too.
Yeah. You're talking to your girlfriends at night about all the tea.
Exactly. And so you can either stay up and be the person that they talk to, or they will go talk to someone else.
Right.
But they're going to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys. I wanted to be that person.
Yeah.
Whether it was my girls or my boys, it just didn't matter.
And the boys were the same, right? They
were
had
the
stuff
same
to
way.
say.
They were. And
Just
so
'cause
what
they're
I
the
would do
boys.
sometimes too is I would send you guys all up to your rooms and I would single out that person.
Right.
And they always knew because I would say, hey, let's talk.
Yeah.
And I would turn the tea on, the little
the
boiler,
hot water
the
heater.
hot water, and we would sit downstairs just
Yeah.
alone, one-on-one.
Right.
And I can't even tell you,
Right.
like the sweetest times.
Right. You're
I
like,
would have
what's
what
going
everybody.
on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And just at first, how the door of their heart would be super tight, and then we would just sit there. I would just sit there
drink
in
your tea
silence and just drink my tea. And it doesn't usually take that long.
No.
I
Well,
mean, usually
when
10
the
minutes of
relationship,
silence,
yeah.
even if the relationship's good,
Yeah.
it's like it takes a minute
Yeah.
for them to open up. But if you're patient and you just be quiet, they will open up. But I will tell you this as a parent too, is in those times, one of the quickest ways that I have found to get my kids to open up is to ask them, hey, I want you to be honest. I've noticed that you're a little off or angry. Is it something that I have done?
That's hard to ask that.
And you guys,
Yeah.
shut up
Yeah.
and listen to what they say.
Yeah. Don't get defensive.
Don't get defensive. Don't make excuses, because here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you fight against the answer to this question, you could lose them. And I don't want you to lose your kids, and I did not want to lose my kids. And sometimes that answer was really hard for me.
Yeah, because it's unjustified sometimes.
It
feeling.
is.
You're like,
It
I can't
feels-
defend myself.
Yes, but here's the thing. You need to be the adults.
Yes.
And you need to be able to take whatever they're saying.
Yes.
Obviously, you can pray about it later and filter it through the scriptures.
Right.
And ask God to search your heart and see if there's any wicked way in you.
Right.
But the beautiful thing is that if you can have the maturity and self-control to say, yes, that was wrong. Would you please forgive me? You have just put the first stitch into mending your relationship. Forgiveness is so powerful, you guys.
Yeah.
And repentance is even more powerful.
Yeah. Well, and I tell people all the time, because they're like, how, like, you know, everybody's curious, like, oh, now that you have kids, like, how's your relationship with your parents? And I'm like, I said the key to a relationship with your parents is you have to be willing to apologize and ask forgiveness as the parent. And you guys did that so well. Yes. You aren't perfect. It's like there are sometimes we had some conversations about stuff. As you get older, you can handle those.
Exactly.
Let's talk about it. Like, what were you, how did we get to this point? Whatever. But especially the 10 to 14, that's not a time to justify what you did.
Right.
The fact that they're telling you is a big step.
Right.
In that relationship of them seeking to try and, you know, you've extended a branch of trust, so don't just break it on them by being like, well, that's ridiculous.
And I will say one thing too, in that I forgot to say, is one time when you were 14. Oh my gosh, I feel terrible even talking about this. You shared something with me.
That's so funny.
And I freaked out.
Oh, yeah. This is not really like, I don't even think I was talking about you. It was just a thing.
It was a situation.
I don't even remember the situation that happened.
I don't even, but I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, and I freaked out. Parents, like, literally.
Oh my God.
Don't do that. You did not share with me again for like over a year. Anything intimate. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I mean, I remember
like
telling you, I can't talk to you.
I can't talk to you.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the maturity.
I know, it's hard.
Oh my gosh, that was so sad.
Right.
Like a year later, like you told me that, and I was like, oh, what? So here's the thing. So I had to learn that when your children tell you something in your wonderful time together that is very difficult, or that is somebody has hurt them, or something that you want to freak out, what the correct answer is, that's interesting.
We all make fun of her.
Try not we know to freak out,
but it's still fine. Like, now it's a joke. Yes, they're all like, "Oh my gosh,
because
she's
you all
freaking
know
out."
Now. Exactly. When I'm like, "That's interesting."
Yeah. Because now we can. It's like, whatever. We know mom is the way that she...
Exactly.
But when they're 10 to 14,
have
even
to do it.
15, 16, there's not, you know, like, there's just still a lot of sensitivity. It's like, I know this is shocking. I don't need you freaking out and me freaking out.
Exactly. It's not helpful.
Somebody has
for
to
the
be
person.
stable.
Right. Right.
So I love it. Amazing. Well, okay, guys, I hope this was so helpful. I know for me, I'm like, oh, I just can't wait to, in the next 10 years, come back and listen to these for me practicing this with Kingston. But I hope you guys got another nugget of wisdom, that the Lord has brought something to your mind that you can work on as parents. And we want you guys to know we love you, and we can't wait to have you back here with us again next time.